welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave, DragonCast. Today we are going to be discussing House of the Dragon, Episode 8, The Lord of the Tides. My name is Casey, Blue-Eyed Queen, and I'm joined today by our lovely cast of DragonCast members. And let's just get into it. We're going to be giving our reviews and thoughts as we introduce ourselves. Bing, let's start with you first.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I'll give it a 4.5. Yeah. I liked a lot about this episode. I know the last scene is controversial because the prophecy is back and now playing a new important role in this whole story. We can talk more about that as we get to that. I'm okay with it so far, but we'll see how that develops. I do have some questions about some other scenes, and how the producers, the directors and writers chose to portray them. But generally, this show is going on a very, very strong streak. It's building up very nicely to a lovely crescendo.
Awesome, thanks, Bing. Adam, you're next. Adam, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Hello. Sorry, I was walking. This will be fun. All right, yeah. Hey, this is Adam, also known as drownedsnow. And I'm going to say that I love this episode pretty much the whole time watching it. I thought that, Viserys, obviously Paddy Constantine killed it. I mean, just some great scenes that I was not even expecting. But I'm going to give this like a 4, maybe like a 3.99. I'll give it one shy of a 4 because like the prophecy coming back up obviously is stupid and it sucks. But like it didn't really come back up the way it did and the way they're using it to like give Allison a mandate is like fuck off. So yeah, I hated that.
Yeah, and we'll definitely get more into that later on. Let's go with Katie next.
Hi, this is Katie. I'll give this a 5 out of 5. Very stirring acting. A nice family episode that at times hits too close to home for my liking, but in the best of ways. I will reserve judgment on the prophecy scene at the end because we don't know how it's going to be handled in the next episode. Daemon was hilarious. I'm really a big fan of Viserys' gold mask. It reminded me of the Leper King in Kingdom of Heaven. Really cool stuff.
Yes.
Just like an episode that warrants a lot of rewatch and a lot of great subtle acting. I'm very pleased and was happy with this woman, and it didn't have any super dark scenes, so I feel it's redeemed itself in my eyes.
Yeah, we could definitely see maybe too much of everything in this episode. All right, let's go with Stephanie next.
Hi, gsdg. 3.5 for prophecy stuff, and I'm not quite buying a new actor for Aegon the Elder. But yeah, like Paddy Considine gave a hell of a performance.
Awesome. And Matt.
Hello. Yeah, this is definitely a kind of an interesting one for me. It's kind of the first time I wasn't quite getting the vibe of the episode like as it started out. I was kind of a little bit hesitant and curious on what exactly where they were taking it, but as soon as the kind of the throne room starts up, that whole sequence and on, it was just crackling. Real good Emmy reel for Paddy. Definitely showing off a lot in his interactions with Daemon during that throne room scene, as well as kind of the Last Supper Thanksgiving type thing was really cool. Obviously, I'm a big Kingdom of Heaven fan, so I agree with Katie on that front. The prophecy stuff at the end, like obviously that's my initial reaction was the first kind of decision that really like annoyed me with the show, but it also kind of only matters in the context of online discourse, because in the context of the show, if she is going to make an argument going forward that like this is Viserys' dying wish for Aegon to be king, like she was the only witness, so whether he said it or not, like it still comes across the same to the other characters. Like she's still just claiming something, whether or not he's said it. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I really liked kind of the pullback of Rhaenyra and Alicent, like, you know, kind of somewhat coming together here, and so that's kind of the odd thing as to how exactly that's gonna turn in the next episode, because it's nice to see, but at the same time, like, how you're gonna bring that all together. But the only other thing is that with the, you know, being the confusion with the two Aegon names, like, Batman v Superman ruined that type of shit. Like, for any scene like this in the future, where it's just like, why would you say that name? Like, so it's hard to take serious. But pretty much kind of like the main, like, middle meat of this episode was fantastic.
Thanks. So my name is Casey, Blue-Eyed Queen, on the Discords, and everywhere else as well. And I'm going to give this episode probably a 4.9. Like, overall, this was, again, just really good. Don't really have any complaints as far as most of the episode, and the, you know, there weren't any lighting issues this time. There weren't any, you know, the time jump is the time jump, and that is kind of just part of the overall show. It's not really anything to take away from this episode, in my opinion. But, you know, I think I'm a little bit hung up on the last part of the episode with the prophecy. I think that, you know, we'll discuss this more in detail later on when we get to it, but it kind of just feels like a little bit of a cop-out, like a good, like, it looks like everything's going well, but oh wait, no, it's not going to be going well. All those other things that we've tried to like throw in with, or I guess that we've built up to with the conflict between Alicent and Rhaenyra, it all comes down to this stupid prophecy. On the other hand, I think that no matter what it was, Alicent would have eventually came to this conclusion, regardless of it being the prophecy or something else. So, but that's my only negative aspect. Everything else wise, like, the shots were beautiful. Patty makes me want to go watch a bunch of the things that he's been in, because this is my first time seeing him in anything, and I really enjoyed him, and I'm really gonna miss him. You know, he's he's just like, he's a dad, and I think that a lot of us can relate to, you know, having one of those kinds of people in our lives, and how, like, interesting it can unfold. And now we get to see how all the actors kind of act without him there to kind of quell any of the issues between the family members. And yeah, so let's get into the episode here. So at the beginning, 6 years have passed since the last episode, and they make sure that we know that. We first start with on Driftmark with Bela and Rhaenys, and Rhaenys is talking to Vaemond, who informs them that Corlys, I think he was sick, but he could have also been injured. I've seen both online, and I didn't really come down to a conclusion of if it was sickness or an injury. But the point is the succession. Vaemond is concerned that one of the strong boys, Luke, will be succeeding him on the Driftmark throne, and he wants his blood to be there, and he thinks that should be him, and he's going to go talk to King's Landing about it. Rhaenys is very against this, but she doesn't seem to have a choice in the matter. Yeah, so this kind of sets everything up for the episode, which the main conflict is really the succession issue of Driftmark. What did you guys think?
I thought this was great table setting for where the episode was going, mostly because it ends on, I think what the line, he says something like, you know, yes, but the king doesn't sit, he's like, the queen sits the Iron Throne these days or whatever, just to kind of give us like, hey, it's been 6 years and there's a lot that's happened. But yeah, he's a little premature here, definitely. You know, we don't even know if Corlys is dead yet, so maybe slow down.
I mean, it was kind of a sure shot until Bela sent Daemon the letter letting them know so they could press their claim, as we'll see later in the episode.
Right, yeah, and we, you know, I think that we kind of like end up seeing how things have changed later on. You know, it's a good thing that Bela reached out to them, I guess.
Yeah, and just like once it goes one way, or once it's decided on the other way, even if there's, I don't think either Viserys or the High Towers would want to revisit this again.
Oh, I think Viserys would. I mean, if they did this behind his back, he would. Is he still breathing anyway?
Well, no, he likes a lot of the delegation and like the episode 6 small council scene. Like Allison. I mean, it's about drawing a contrast between Rhaenyra, who's more of a micromanager, and Allison, who prefers to delegate. But Allison is delegating, which makes Viserys happy because it's one less thing he has to deal with while he's dying.
Yeah. Although I have a feeling he doesn't really like anything at that point.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's just move the Dragonstone. And here we see it starts out with Daemon finding that new clutch of eggs from Syrax. And we also see that he receives that letter from Baela. Rhaenyra is with her sons, and they're learning Valyrian. And they're not quite getting the hang of it, which kind of draws into them being strong boys instead of true Velaryons and Targaryens, in reference to their uncles. And Daemon comes in and they talk, Rhaenyra and him talk about Baela's note and going to King's Landing.
This is the happiest we've ever seen Daemon. When he comes bouncing over the hill, I got 3 eggs, dudes. 3! I think that might be the first genuine smile we've seen on Matt Smith's face.
It's his weird ass dad hobby.
His calling is to be the egg tender.
He's like a guy who retires and gets really into breeding chihuahuas or something.
Viserys has the castle and or has the Valyrian Lego set, and he's got dragon eggs.
Well, and Daemon's doing this all to prepare for future war. Never mind, how mature those dragons that would hatch from those eggs would. You think how mature those dragons would ever be, right?
I thought he was getting them for his kids.
Well, I think both.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
But they also don't know how far away the usage of them might be. They don't know it's going to be a day away.
Oh yeah, no, better to have and not need than to even need and not have. But still, Viserys is not a well man.
I think more than just owning eggs for prepare for battle. I think they just like owning eggs because.
Oh no, it's definitely his weird hobby in isolation from anything else.
Yeah, and more than just weird hobby. This is him proving that he's so Targaryen, right? Targaryens are into dragons. Yeah. It represents. I'm gonna go and claim that clutch directly.
Yeah, do you see this tattoo of the egg I have on my shoulder, bro?
Yeah.
He's hella Targaryen. I will watch a show called Targaryens where they're wearing Sons of Anarchy motorcycle jackets. Anyway.
Oh my god.
That's definitely his theme, is that he feels like he was born in the wrong time. He wishes he could have been a Valyrian of old and just done what he pleased and hung out with dragons all day. But I'm sorry, I need to be a stickler because this egg the egg clutch raises so many questions for me that it kind of broke my brain last night. Okay, Syrax only laid 3 eggs, and that's it? This is a huge fucking dragon. The turtles lay hundreds of eggs. Alligators lay dozens of eggs, and the dragon only lays 3 eggs.
and that stupid promo after the episode shows hundreds of them.
I feel like that should be correct, right? I mean, they seem to have low viability, not a lot of them hatch. So it should be a huge field of eggs and not this poop pile that only has 3 of them inside.
Maybe Syrax is particularly, I don't know, infertile. Who knows?
But they also can live for 100+ years, and maybe they're not they don't have a drop of fertility with age. So it's more about eggs over time.
A few eggs here, a few eggs there. Whatever.
I mean, I don't think that dragons are I don't think that these dragons are necessarily going to be proportional to our reptiles in nature, but I think that dragons are relatively rare, so to me it made sense. But if we look at reptiles from a size proportion to eggs thing. Like this doesn't
Right.
exactly work.
And it doesn't seem like the dragon eggs are easy to crack, like someone would eat them or anything. So it's not like you have to have tons of eggs to ensure survivability, right?
Right,
It's a
well,
good- Sorry, it's just, it is I will give them credit, it's a very good detail that the eggs are kept like in this gooey pile, like that hardened around them to keep them super hot. That makes sense, and it makes sense that once you take them out of their little necks, that you have to put them in the oven or whatever to keep them nice and toasty. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of like someone digging into, you know, those like Nat Geo videos where they have somebody digging into a volcano. That was what I immediately thought of when he went digging for the egg.
Right. Did anyone else think we were going to find a bunch of dragon glass?
No.
It was dark, and I was seeing like, well, because they brought the prophecy up in like the preview, and then we go into this, and it was kind of dark, and I'm like, is this dragon glass? Oh shit, is this going to be like they're harvesting dragon glass already?
I mean, if it's magma, then it maybe turns into dragon glass. Maybe that's how they harvest it. I don't know. I kind of want George to write a whole book on this, so I can like get really into like how dragons are made nerdiness.
Yeah. Stop writing that winter now.
We need like we need the fantastic beast character of this world.
Release Septon Barth. He demands it.
Two things I'll say about this is that Dragonstone looks hella fortified. It looks like they've been spending some time and money preparing for war. And they do mention when they're talking politics about how Rhaenys believes that they killed Laenor. And I was like, oh, huh, that seems odd. But
yeah, I mean, I felt like that was kind of inevitable. Like, of course, you would think that they killed him.
Well, but why wouldn't they say something eventually? Like, especially if they need her as an ally, because the Valerians are propped up as being like the second biggest house, right?
They probably tried to say something before. I think Rhaenys just didn't want to listen to them.
I don't know. It seems like they haven't been back to court for 6 years, right?
I mean, Driftmark isn't that far away.
No, but I mean, like, they haven't gone to King's Landing like Rhaenyra and Daemon, right? Even though they have dragons and could go in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, but like,
been focusing on making those babies.
That's right. Gotta secure the bloodline.
Yeah.
I guess I liked that this was just like like a way to like explain why like both Jace and Luke are like betrothed to Baela and Rhaena when it seems like Rhaenys is having the final say on the twins' marriages, but like Daemon kind of is their father, so it feels like he would have a say. So like it is a little like odd for like, besides just like general Targaryen arrogance and assuming that like people are going to follow you despite not giving them any deliverable.
Well, going back to the twins in the books, did they stay on Driftmark?
I don't recall, but like I want to say someone in the chat said that like they were like that betrothal happened even when like Laena was still alive when they were in Pendos.
Much sooner. Yeah,
Rhaena was sent to the Arryns, I want to say.
Was it before the war started?
That's during the war.
That's during the war.
During the war.
Baela stayed.
Yeah, Baela stays on Dragonstone throughout the war.
But Daddy Daemon has just been like, well, parental rights terminated, apparently. So that's great. Then send in child support, I guess.
It sounded like Baela was the only one at Driftmark. It sounded like Rhaena was still with them, just not in that scene. At least from the scene that we get with Rhaenys at the God's.
Oh, yeah, because she got the dragons, so of course, yeah.
Yeah, in Show World, I guess it's convenient for Rhaena to pick up a egg. Well, it's just we've harped on that.
Yeah, and for Rhaenys, I mean, I think she thinks that they're the most viable heirs. Like when something happens, I think that is probably her plan all along, is to push for them. Like she asked Corlys.
Yeah.
So maybe she wants someone there to train.
Yeah, and like she told Corlys, just like him naming one of the girls as heir is actually like the real way to like honor like her claim being passed over.
Are they allowed to just do that, to just pick their heirs in this world? I mean, it seems that's what they suggest.
It doesn't. I think it's all just. Oh, sorry, Bang.
Oh no, sorry. I mean, you can pick your heirs. People can dispute that. That's the problem.
Right. So upon your death, it could create a whole toxic situation, like we.
Yeah, there's a really long "So Spake Martin" actually about the Lady Hornwood plot about like the different
Oh,
options
yeah.
for heir, and about just like basically how like a man's son or eldest son is his heir, but then after that it gets just like really ambiguous, and like the lords liked it that way because it reduced the problem down to their own personal judgment, which means like whatever's politically convenient or how much you can bribe them or whatever, right?
We do see some changes. Speaking of naming,
Right? Like how we see now when like going forward in the councils or in like later and like through the plot of the episode, right? It's like Vaimond has a claim. How like good it is maybe that's disputable, but like Allison and Otto are really like talking about what's best for them.
Right. All right, let's move on to the next big scene. There's a lot going on here, but Rhaenyra and Daemon head to King's Landing on a boat with no dragons, and they're not formally welcomed by anybody when they arrived. It's clear that Allison and Otto are in charge. There's a brief scene of them discussing the succession with the small council. As Rhaenyra and Daemon go through the castle, they see that things have changed. They know I think that they got rid of most of the dragon paraphernalia, if you will, and have replaced things with Stars of the Seven, and more things that are aligned with the House of Hightower. And Rhaenyra and Daemon go to see King Viserys, who is clearly dying, and they try to discuss the succession issues and introduce him to his new grandchildren, Aegon and Viserys. And the king can barely say hello before he asks for his tea and falls into another dazed sleep. So there's a lot going on here, but I thought it was best to probably combine these kind of little sections into the same thing. Yeah, things have changed over the past 6 years.
Katie, was Aegon appropriately in the background enough for you?
Didn't get a good look at him.
No more
He was in the
porn.
back. He was in the back, out of focus, except the one time Rhaenyra specifically referred to him by name. Otherwise, it was little Viserys in the front. Like Viserys, like fawning over his namesake.
So obviously they named Viserys for his uncle grandpa, but when they named little Aegon, was that just like the first kid out? Was like a big old fuck you, like this is the real Aegon?
I think it was.
I
So
believe like in the
book, yes. Here,
Yeah.
who knows?
In the book, that's definitely the case. I feel like they either maybe omitted a scene or just didn't feel like they needed to bring up the fact that he's named Aegon, same name as
Because it's a common name for
Yeah, it's just a common Targaryen name. I mean, there are a lot of Aegons.
I mean, look, Rhaegar was going to name all of his kids George Foreman, so it's okay.
I mean, I think that maybe in part, I think what we're supposed to imply here, at least from the show, is maybe that Rhaenyra named her firstborn son from Daemon Aegon because of the prophecy in some way. I don't know.
Oh.
Like,
does the prophecy say it has to be named Aegon? Did I miss that part?
I don't think that it necessarily implies that, but the way that they were talking about it at the end of this episode kind of brought that thought up for me. I wasn't thinking about it when I was
named Aegon. And...
Yeah.
No, it's just
what is happening?
No, well, technically,
it's not specifically
no.
called out. It's just people trying to reference the.
Okay, I just want to make sure I didn't miss something.
Well, no, the reason
it's about the trappings of power, right? Aegon, and then like Alice, or I don't know who's behind naming Helena's twins, right? But it's Jaehaerys and Jaehaera, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what the name of the new Kingsguard was? The one that Allison meets after the council?
Eric.
Is Eric or Eric? They all sound the same.
It's Eric with an E. She calls him Arik at first, but it's
Is
Eric.
he the one that sneaks out of the city?
No.
One of them. If it's not him, it's the other one, and they're not really that different. So
they're twins.
Right.
They are played by twin actors too.
Right.
It's great.
The council is full of greens now.
Shout out to Lord Beesbury.
Except for Lord Beesbury. I feel like Beesbury's just got the sword of Damocles hanging over his head every time we see him.
I said his stone, his council stone is honey-colored. I like that detail.
He doesn't realize he's not in on the joke.
To get, I guess, serious, the scene where Rhaenyra and Daemon come to see Viserys for the first time, it's really difficult. It's like if you've ever been like an older family member who's in hospice or is going through serious illness, and like there's still the day-to-day necessities of life to carry out, and sometimes that means pressing upon someone who's in a lot of pain. Like, I need you to fill out this paperwork. We need to go through like anything that's like related to your mortgage. And obviously, like, this is more self-serving on Rhaenyra's part, but it's just painful to watch them kind of press him and be like, you need to say these words. Like, get up in the chair and say the words, please. We need you to do this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That scene was very touching for me. I feel like if anybody has had, the experience of seeing a family member pass away, it kind of touched you in the heartstrings there. And exactly what you were saying, Katie. You just need your signature on this one more thing.
Daemon is so sad. Some people are playing this like, oh, this is elder abuse. Like, he's trying to, like, he's like, I think Kevin said, like, he was commanding him to. I'm like, no, I think he was like, hey, this is what we need. And then I think a minute later he was like, oh yeah, this isn't gonna happen. Like, he was just so sad.
No, Daemon was clearly upset. Like, even so, like, I actually rewatched the scene of Emma's funeral, and it's the same thing. That, like, Daemon is upset. But he is just like trying to focus on the practical things.
He can't process. Yeah, he has to be like, well, okay, so yeah, I do need to get some stamps to mail this envelope.
But yeah, and also, he's not just using Emma's funeral to creep on Rhaenyra. He gives Viserys a really like sorrowful look.
He's also working his jaw and kind of stumbling over his words, like he's real clenched and trying to work through the emotions without letting anything out.
And I think that even Rhaenyra, I think there's a moment where Rhaenyra kind of realizes that, like, this might not be, like, this isn't the right time, or, maybe just, like, he's clearly dying, this just kind of feels wrong. But to me, it seemed like, Daemon was kind of just trying to process all this and kind of did the thing where, like, where it might have been pretending that he wasn't, like, totally dying right there and was doing his, just like, oh, we need you to do this, you're not dying, please, type thing. It was just really sad. And yeah, throughout the episode, just how awful they made Viserys look. There were points, especially at the dinner, where I could not even look at the TV. I was so gross. I think I saw one tweet that was like, or no, it was Bing. I think you posted this, right? That, like, there wasn't, he looked worse than, like, the characters on
the zombies on The Walking Dead.
The zombies on The Walking Dead, yeah.
I apologize for the insensitive joke.
Yeah. We also see here that Viserys is drinking milk of the poppy. Daemon is clearly not happy about this. I would say that milk of the poppy is pretty much like opioids in our life. So I think that he is worried that they're sedating him too much. It's hard when people are that sick and dying.
Yeah, I thought maybe we'd get like a I smell poison moment or something, but
yeah, I think that I think that this is a little bit more complicated than, like, the High Towers are, like, blatantly, like, keeping him out of the court by giving him milk of the poppy.
Yeah. I don't think Otto is even being super dishonest when he's like, you should see him when he's on nothing, man.
No,
like,
he's clearly in a lot of pain. He's clearly in a lot of pain, stumbling through the throne room to get to the throne. And,
it's very. I do have sympathy. Just to note a later scene when Alicent, like, they're kind of taking it up with her, and she gets defensive about it. It's like, yeah, she's been taking care of him and making sure that he's comfortable, whereas you guys have not been around for 6 years. That's
Yeah.
another like kind of too real moment where it's like
Yeah.
clearly one member of the family has been doing their best and does not need bullshit from the out of towners.
Yeah. It's
Right, and
absolutely a
it's just
point for
like, well,
Allison.
that's because of the conflict with Eamon, but it's just like round, like we didn't start the fire, It's just like at some point, it's just like this is how it is.
Right.
I mean, if Rhaenyra knew he was this bad, I mean, I think she would have been visiting. I don't know.
Was she?
Yes, I mean, like
Did you not see the signs that this guy was getting that bad already?
communication issues go both ways.
Yeah.
So, I doubt that Rhaenyra was necessarily like reaching out to her father constantly and asking how he is and all that. But also, the High Towers were probably like, it's convenient to not like talk to them about this.
Well, and it's important, even if the High Towers were the most honorable people here, none of this stuff happens. Like his condition, it's important to keep that from people. Just like
Generally.
him showing up in the throne room, as we get to later, is a problem.
Yeah, for them. All right, and we're going to move on to the next scene. Trigger warning here for rape. So the next scene, Alicent tends to a serving girl who has clearly been raped by her son, Aegon. She comforts the girl, I guess the best she can, the best that she sees that she can. And tells her that she cannot speak about this to anybody, and gives her moon tea just in case. Alicent then later confronts her son about the incident, which he seems indifferent. And Alicent says that Aegon is no son of hers. This was pretty tough to watch on scene. It seems that this is a recurring issue because in the beginning the girl says, like, I know that you, like, it seems like she was supposed to not be in there when he was in there, but she didn't see him in there when she brought whatever she was bringing to him.
More than that, it's like a routine with the servant Talia. It's like she knows what she has to do without being instructed.
Yeah.
It's the Olivia. Is it Olivia Cook who's the Alicent's actress?
Yes.
She does a really phenomenal job in the scene because she's at war with her own emotions. It's her compassion, which I do think is genuine when she expresses it towards the girl, is at war with her loyalty to her son. And so she allows herself to extend kindness, but then once she has kind of reeled the girl in, she very calculatingly pulls back and reverses the situation, like flips the table and is like, now
let's cover up the rape.
Yeah, it becomes like you don't want people to like think like what kind of like that you're that kind of girl, do you? It's like misogyny as like this weapon in a way that is just like completely believable. And I think it's all the more devastating because of that.
Don't you think she would do anything? Like if a girl in this situation were to say, well, I don't care, I'm going to make sure everyone knows this isn't right, Alicent would deal with her. Yeah. I mean, she wouldn't just... I mean, I do think she has compassion here, and it's the like piety that they've kind of developed in her character. And she's pissed off that Aegon does this shit, but not pissed off to actually stop it.
Of course. That is the evil at the root of it, which is that she is willing to make, like, to sacrifice like this girl who has been violated in order to protect her worthless son. And she's not willing, like, I'm not sure like how much like room she has because he is the son of the king. But I don't know. Yeah, I think that is it's a very real insidiousness that I completely bought into and believed.
Also, Katie, like that is kind of like, it does play into how she feels about herself because, like what, like she says at the beginning of the series is, I just wish that someone would have said that they were sorry for what happened to me, and, she says that about her dead mother, but she says that to Viserys while she's being pimped out to Viserys. And it's just yes, there's like the class difference, but like, Viserys might not have seen fit to marry her. He didn't have to do that, No,
I just think she is a complicated woman, and I think ultimately it's very harrowing to watch her like shift in that moment from like having tears on the surface of her eyes as she's holding this girl and saying, "I believe you," like the words that like a victim would want to hear, and then stepping back and just creating this barrier between them, like this cold wall. It's very
And
chilling.
weaponizing the intimacy that she created through like recognizing her.
Yeah, and I don't think that comes from nowhere. I think like she's speaking from like she's taking material from her own life. Like
Yeah,
she
that's what I
didn't
was
want
trying
to.
to say.
Yes, yeah, she didn't want to sleep. She like her sex life with Viserys seems pretty miserable. And I think like she kind of understands this like this sense of powerlessness and violation, but ultimately she bought into that system and she's going to protect like herself and her family within the system. It's riveting.
Yeah. No, this is a scene that it's hard for me to sort of completely sort out my thoughts about this scene. And like I guess amongst everybody here, I may be the most sympathetic to Allison's character. Maybe? I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, I think that there's a part of me who, like, I feel sympathy towards Allison here in the fact that, in this world, what good would come of, like, the girl proclaiming that, like, she's been a victim? Like,
Yeah.
in this world, is it really gonna, like, change the patriarchy? It's not gonna change the patriarchy.
This
and I
world,
think that...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, sorry.
This world that we're still living in struggles with this issue.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's not like... It's definitely not any better in this world.
No, this is what I have seen this happen.
Yeah.
I know people who have had this happen to them. So
yeah.
And some part of me almost feel like Allison was almost too sympathetic. Almost that she's acting like a modern sympathetic user to someone who has been raped with some of the things that she says first.
Yeah.
And then she adjusts back to something that more resembles someone of her stature in that world, in that social position. Because we talk about the patriarchy that still exists today, and absolutely still does. Back then, it's not just it exists back then. It shapes people to who they are, right?
Right, and it shaped Allison.
Yeah, she cannot think of a way besides this. I feel like, sure, we can talk about how she manipulates it, trying to form an emotional closeness with her, and part of that could be true. But on the other hand, she is way more sympathetic to a girl who has been raped in this world than we've seen in any other situation across the Martinverse. And I would argue, much more sympathetic than the original showrunner of Game of Thrones has ever been to any rape victims.
Right. No, I totally agree. I feel like this was very different from your typical Game of Thrones type scene where this kind of thing has occurred. And I'm sure that the showrunners kind of took the feedback of Game of Thrones and maybe played it into this scene a little bit. This is complicated because of the world that they're living in, and also because Allison, her whole thing is that Aegon needs to be king, and she needs to have this work within that. I felt like the scene was a bit, as I think, I forget who said it, but it does seem a bit rehearsed. This is what they do when this happens, and unfortunately, this is not the first time this has happened to somebody with Aegon. But it does seem a bit. I'm also having trouble like forming this all into words.
It's ultimately about her image, though, right? She cannot stand the humiliation of, like, she even shouts that in his face, like, the shame it would bring on me, the shame that it brings on your wife. How can you keep doing this? It's like she cannot stand the embarrassment of Aegon, like, raping a servant girl any more than she can stand the embarrassment at dinner of Aemond prodding the strong boys. Like, she just can't deal with her children humiliating her like this. And I think that's like, I think that is the least sympathetic part of this. I think the part of her that is sympathetic is that she clearly does feel pain. She's not brave enough to, or capable enough even, to do anything about it. The scene with Aegon even I find very compelling because, like, he is a rapist, he's a monster, and I still feel for him when she hits him, and like he is speaking to her the words that she has been speaking in her head to her father her entire life, which is like, I did everything you told me and I'm still not good enough. Like, and it's like, oh God, like like this pain has been this pain has been passed down and to the family members to the point that it doesn't matter anymore if Rhaenyra and Alicent make up at the end. Like it's filtering down like to the different roots of their family. Like it's
right.
Yeah.
Like Alice,
you would push a civil war to like the next generation, even if Rhaenyra took the throne peacefully.
Right. Like Rhaenyra is mostly gone from Alicent's like view at this stage of like things, but like now that Rhaenyra's out of her immediate line of sight, she just scapegoats her son. And yeah, Aegon like is like doing reprehensible things that he deserves to face consequences for. But it's also like just a continuation of like the most unhealthy dynamic.
Yeah, there's the hint of generational trauma continuing here.
And that's why Alicent will never be happy.
It's not. I mean, it doesn't matter about being. I mean, the system is not built for people like Alicent to be happy. It's preparing.
Still for people like Aegon to be happy.
Like,
no, it isn't. Or
no.
Otto Hightower manipulated the situation into to be like this, and
right, but no, like the
impulse.
The impulse for the scapegoating impulse is I'll just rage at this person and then I'll feel better. But that's not how it works because clearly she's found a new scapegoat in Aegon.
But the problem is she can't persecute Aegon, right? And she can't release that anger in any other way. This whole system is unhealthy.
Right, that's what I've been saying, and that's what I come back to on the forum. I think so. Like a healthy way would be to like confront either Viserys or her father, but that's never going to happen.
No, there's a way to prosecute someone like Aegon, but no, it's not. That's never going to happen. In fact, so I've been reading some online sort of things about how the character assassinated Aegon II in the show. Which no, this is something that not only.
Oh, you mean because of this? Because of this scene?
Yeah. No, like the book says she fooled around, and that's what it means. Fooling around means in this world. Someone.
Well, I mean, he has power, so it could still be consensual, way more so than this. But yeah, I mean, Aegon. I've said this before. Like going into this, my read on him was never that he was like completely a piece of shit. But I mean, this isn't who you want as your king now. I mean, no, yeah.
In this world,
it's a change, but it's definitely within the realm of what's on the page. Yeah, absolutely.
In this world, he is not considered a complete piece of shit as we would see him as from our perspective. In this world, this isn't even that much of a bad thing. And plenty of characters throughout Game of Thrones have done things like this and got away from it, and that happens 200 years later, like Tyrion Lannister.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it kind of going back to the last episode where we were kind of discussing how should Alicent be punished for scarring Rhaenyra here? Well, like, can Alicent punish Aegon? And it seems like the answer is no, at least for her. But I still feel like, they're just talking still. She hasn't actually made any action to reprimand him in any kind of way. And I guess even in the past.
Right, but what would the punishment for this action be in this world anyway? For the king or the prince?
There's nothing.
That's what I'm saying. Even if they said we're gonna do a punishment, it would be so minor, but it would be embarrassing, so it's not worth it.
Who would be punished would be the girl.
Right. Even if this was a common person, it could be the girl that gets punished. I mean, not necessarily, but it could be. Like,
the worst that happens is you get gelded and sent to the wall, but that's never going to be an option.
Yeah, not an option for a royal. No way.
Yeah.
He has to do dishes. I don't know.
Maybe make him work out a little bit or something. I don't know.
Ugh.
Hit the gym.
And there's part of I feel like this scene kind of weirdly and uncomfortably relates back to Alicent walking in on her son jerking off out the window in a weird way. And yeah, it just makes me things that we've already discussed, remembering the generational trauma of everything.
That was a joyous scene. He's completely consensual.
Was ass naked in both.
It's Sorry.
No, you're
I think it's perfectly fine for teenager Aegon to jump out the window.
Katie, are you saying that Allison consented to see her naked son jerking off?
You walked in on him. She didn't
She
even.
barged in. Privacy.
Well, no,
Oh,
I
boy.
thought the reason I'm saying that is just that, like she didn't really even bring up the fact that he was jerking off in the out the window.
Oh,
like-
sure. She was used to it. He's a sex
Yeah.
pest.
Yeah.
Oh, we missed something here. Helena is a treasure and innocent and seems to be
Yeah,
kind
and
of
Allison
oblivious.
gives her this. Yeah, Allison comes in and asks, like, where's the maid Diana? And Allison just gives her this hug with like the guiltiest look on her face. Like,
It's like she's supposed to take the kids. Oh,
It's okay.
man.
Mommy will get you a new one.
it's like
Yeah,
either
your
she's
shit
sacked
husband
or
brother
dead,
ruined
but,
your
yeah,
babysitter.
Mommy will get you a new one.
Ugh. Yeah.
Man.
All right, let's move on to the next scene here. We have a bunch of small scenes, so I'll go through the next couple. Rhaenyra and Daemon speak briefly with Alicent, who Alicent basically comes to welcome them, and they talk briefly about the state of King Viserys. Jace and Luke do a little wander through the courtyard and reminisce about past memories there. They also see Aemon fighting, and he looks very, very good at it. We also see, just after that, Rhaenyra meets Rhaenys in the Godswood and discusses the succession of Driftmark. Rhaenyra offers the marriage between Baela and Jace and Luke and Rhaena to kind of quell any misgivings and bloodline issues between the parties.
I guess I'd like to say something. I guess this is just an example of how Rhaenyra is not in fact getting away with the strong boys. Here she's essentially paying interest on this political decision that should have been that should have happened with her marriage, but now she has to commit her sons to the Velaryons to mollify them. Understandably, right? Rhaenys has no obligation to clean up Rhaenyra's mess, no matter what Corlys wants.
Aemon looked fucking hot.
Wait, so why is everybody into Aemon? What am I missing here?
It's like Dark Legolas. I'm pretty
Is
sure
it the hair?
he's wearing Daemon's wig from the first episode. I'm 99% sure.
Yes, I think so too.
He's a Daemon cosplayer.
Until there comes another younger and more beautiful.
To strike you down and take all that you hold dear.
Yes. I don't know if I'm the only one that noticed this, but it felt like to me that Aemon looked significantly older and more mature than his brother and sister did, even though they're both supposed to be older than him.
Yeah, he looks a lot bigger than the strong boys too. At the dinner scene, Luke looks so small compared to him. And I don't know. Okay, I understand they don't Zach and I were talking about this in the chat before the episode started. It's just or before this recording started. It's just they don't want to recast a bunch of times. That's nuts. I don't, and Luke's not long for this world, sadly. But it's at the same time, it's just I know Aemon's supposed to be a little older than Jace, but at the same time, it's just the crazy. Either it's the craziest growth spurt, or
he's far more imposing.
Yeah,
It's not even
strong boys.
It's not even the height thing. It's really more just the face. I guess they just couldn't soften it enough to make him look younger. I believe he.
No, that's his face all the time. I actually appreciate that he's got that the axe murderer face the entire
He's got a very punchable
every day.
face.
Yeah, very resting crazy face or something. He can't turn it off, and he doesn't want to, even if he could.
Given that he's a Daemon cosplayer, it kind of fits, right? Because Daemon hasn't
Exactly
aged from the episode 1 to now.
I just added
Even though
the
his
iPad.
brother now looks like the undead.
According to the internet, he's only 20 years old. So he
The
is the
actor?
correct. Yeah, he's around the correct age he should be.
Hmm.
He definitely just
He's just super tall.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
and-
just like his kit is more like filled in, you know what I mean? He's got like the gloves and the leathers and the eye patch, and like it just looks like he's ready to go like main character some shit, and everyone else is sort of like in the starting village.
Yeah, everyone
Yeah,
else has,
Jace
like,
does carry
children.
himself. Yeah, Jace does carry himself with like a slight like slouch, so that could be part of it.
Is he taller than Cole in that scene, or are they about the same height?
I
he
think
is
they're about
taller
the
than-
same. Oh,
I think he is a little bit taller, but
I couldn't really tell from the angle. Like a few times it looked like he was, and I don't think the Cole actor is like short or anything.
No, but I don't think he's very tall either.
Yeah,
No, I meant is again. He's some sort of vampire, just like Damien.
yeah. So going back to Alicent, like really just kind of playing her part. I did love when they were talking about drugging Viserys and all this going on, and she was like, well, thankfully, my belief in the Seven will allow me to ignore your slights when I pass judgment over you tomorrow. I just want her to start like whenever Aegon does some shit, being like by the stranger, what's wrong? I just wanted to start like invoking the Seven and shit all the time. What are you doing? The mother and the crone are watching.
It's not very subtle, but it does speak to her character, which is that she is trying to hide behind her own righteousness by literally wearing a giant pentagram medallion, not pentagram, heptagram, on her chest. It's
all
like,
the dragon porn is in storage. it's all in Aegon's room. Oh man.
yeah, it kind of like adds a religion element to this whole thing about, staying true to your husband and not straying away, like very like honing down into that. I thought it was interesting with Olivia Cook, an interview that she had, I think around the time of, I saw it whenever like episode 5 happened, but basically like they asked her to describe Alicent in like 2 words and or 1 word, and it was closeted. And I thought that was really interesting considering all like the religious elements and trying to like hide any kind of sexuality differences that the Targaryens might
That would fit for
have.
someone in her position, for sure.
Yeah.
And they sort of gloss over, because Helena and Aegon are married, they sort of gloss over where her objections there would have been, or who kind of
Those Targaryens
made that
have weird
happen.
customs. No,
Yeah,
she
and
made
then-
it. They talk about
and
how
then
their
it
moms
just
was making
happened.
them do it in the
Yeah.
last episode.
She just dealt with that. And the final scene here, like in this little setup before we get going to the throne room, is like Viserys talking with Rhaena and then Rhaenyra, and then Otto comes in, and Viserys just like, it's like, I just want to have family dinner tonight. And I thought on Canadian Thanksgiving this was very appropriate, It was sad. I was like, oh well, they're not going to have family dinner. This dude can't walk.
And Otto being like, but it's morning, sir. I was like, no, I want dinner later with my family.
Yeah, I'm planning my day. While you're
that was-
torturing me. Oh.
Yeah. Before we move on, I just want to note that this is the second time that Rhaenyra has made like a weird vow in front of the God's Eye or Godswood to this time to Rhaenys about not killing her son, which is technically true, and the other time it was also technically true, but there's a little bit of a more to the story type thing here, which I think is interesting. And
is that where she was like, I didn't sleep with my uncle one? That was in the Godswood, right?
Yeah, it's like I think she said that she didn't sleep with her uncle, but like in truth she slept with Christian Cole.
Yeah, well, she did say that she was, at one point she did say she was still like virtuous or something.
Yeah,
like she did lie at one point, but like at first she
Is
was
there
like,
a
I swear I didn't
superstition?
sleep with Damon never touched me, I swear. So,
Is there a superstition about lying in the Godswood?
do Targs hold to like Godswood shit?
not
That
But
tree.
is there
I
like
mean-
a general belief among people who generally give more credence to the old gods? That's an
Right.
well, I think that they probably hold it to some kind of thing because of
I mean, besides the general, this is a place of worship, proper etiquette, please.
right, yeah. I don't know. Definitely not in the books, at least. I don't know if they're playing into the show a little bit here, where it's like, Bran's watching. He's seeing all this.
But in King's Landing, in the book, the heart tree is an oak tree, right? So this has to be a change for a reason.
Yeah,
I think it's just familiarity, and it looks
Yeah.
nice. It looks cool.
Yeah. How many times do you think that Bran watched this episode of Godswood King's Landing?
Well, technically he's seen everything, so he's seen it.
Because like with all the rats, is there is there reason to think that there's like a warg or a different kind of seer or?
Nah.
I think it's really just there for familiarity and maybe another, other than the prophecy, a reminder of how this.
And
is
it
a
looks
prequel.
great. I mean, it's a great place to shoot stuff.
The red imagery does look really great with the Targaryen apparel and the theme and everything. Yeah.
True.
Also, it's good art to have in the, to cosplay and to do that. I know that somebody at Ice and Fire Con did like a really awesome werewood tree cosplay, and that was really fun.
This will sell the calendars.
Yes. Plus, it's fall. Everybody likes a good red tree. All right, let's move on to just briefly. We have a short scene here where Rhaenyra, it's nighttime and she's talking with her father alone in his bed, and she's trying to ask him about the prophecy. Is this really real? And he is kind of delirious and doesn't really say anything. This kind of leads into the last scene in the episode. But, I think it also kind of leads into the small council scene that we have coming up. Any thoughts about this before moving on to the small council?
He heard his baby girl. He came to defend her.
Yeah. So,
it's good because it's what she's always wanted from him. Like, I think, like that actor really sells like just kind of like the like that feeling like where like you have like an old pain that's just coming up in your chest, and it's like I need you to defend me. I've always wanted you to defend me, and you never did.
Yeah, and I think that Rhaenyra here is feeling like, I think she's grieving a little bit, like, because she knows that he's going to be dying soon, and she's not ready to be queen, and she's scared, and normal daughter losing their father feelings. Instead, you don't have to worry about succeeding anything usually, but yeah. But it was a touching scene for me, just from that kind of perspective. It's really hard when, people die and you're seeing them die and you can't really do much about it. All right, let's go into the small council scene. They hold a session to discuss the succession of Driftmark based off of Corlys being sick or ill or whatever. Otto is the one sitting the Iron Throne for this, and Vaemon makes his speech or his plea to make him king, make him the Lord of Driftmark, and Rhaenyra interrupts him for a moment, but they all tell her to stand down. She'll get her turn. Vaemon makes his peace, and then Rhaenyra starts to speak, but then the doors behind her open, and King Viserys is there to save the day. He walks, or, tries to walk himself to the Iron Throne. He eventually gets there. He eventually makes his opinion heard that, like, this is kind of ridiculous. Why are we even doing this right now? Why is this in question? Vaemond is outraged.
Says the word.
Yes. Before I get to that, though, Rhaenys makes her plea or her opinion known to the king about marrying the children of Laena and Laenor to each other, having, Luke obviously taking Driftmark and Jace and Baela being king and queen of King's Landing whenever that would happen. Then Vaemon kind of goes crazy, looks over at Rhaenyra and Daemon, and Daemon's like, say it. And he's like, they're bastards and she's a whore. And before Viserys can even be like, take his tongue out, Daemon slices his head off and he falls to the floor. And that's the end of that. Yeah, I really loved this scene. This was pretty crazy. Daemon slicing his head off was just like, ooh. But also,
was I the only one that shouted "say it" at the screen like 2 seconds before Daemon did? I was like, "Oh shit!"
No, everybody
he was so excited.
Like,
no, I seriously was like, "Say
today.
it, say it!" And then Daemon's like, "Yes, say it." I'm like, "He heard me."
So,
wife's name.
Oh, sorry, Katie. Can you say that again? And then Stephanie.
No, I was just. No, I'm not going to say it. It's been memed too many times. Keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth.
True, though. Sorry, Stephanie.
No, guest right watch. Gonna be important for Team Black going forward.
Yeah. Ugh.
Honestly, I'm kind of like, okay, is this whitewashing Rhaenyra? Because she feeds this guy to her dragon in the book, right?
Vaemond?
Yeah.
No.
Who gets fed to her dragon, though? For calling her kids bastards. If not Vaemond, then who?
I don't remember that part of the book.
Because I want to say it's like the Velaryon delegation, they get their tongues ripped out, but she feeds him to Syrax.
Oh, right, because he might be left alive.
She fed his corpse to one of the dragons.
Well, how did he die?
Googling now.
Was he like executed or?
Oh, Daemon just went and killed him.
Oh,
so
okay. Same as in the show.
Guess that's. I mean, not the same context. There was no big, strong confrontation over claims. It's just,
he didn't behead him in front of the whole.
Daemon
everybody.
just did a Daemon thing and went did vigilante shit. There's also like 5 younger. I mean, also Daemon Velaryon is also not like this brother of Corlys Velaryon in the books either.
But yeah, Rhaenyra orders his beheading right in the book.
Yeah.
And then she feeds him to the dragon afterwards.
Yeah, you're right, Stephanie.
Yay! I did not have shocking lack of knowledge. I'm just trying to keep from rereading until the season ends, and I don't want to waste all my time on the wiki. So forgive any shocking lack of knowledge.
That's what VOK is all about. Shocking lack of knowledge.
In all seriousness.
Why is it still shocking?
True. It just is.
Look, this is like the one time in like the next like decade that we in this fandom are going to have something like new to chew, or kind of new to chew on.
Right.
You know, it's like after this, move on to greener pastures, and then come back when there's something like in like a decade.
We can't go there. We can't.
Viserys has been so good. He's not really the Ned Stark of this show. In a way, he is, because they focus on him a lot, and he dies before the season's over. But like, not in the, you know that's going to happen. Or even if you're just a show person, you probably have a reasonable idea that that's going to happen. But I will say, like this scene, like I had chills. Like this, I did not expect this. I mean, the Feeble King, like. He wasn't great, but he was great. I don't know how to explain it. The score really helped a lot with that, but just like seeing his entrance and this is his last ride. It was really great for the character.
It was nice to see Daemon put the crown on his head.
Yeah, and it has like symbolic layers of. It gives the impression that Daemon might have. Well, he would have been a shitty hand, but he was never the enemy that maybe his brother feared him to be. Like he wanted the crown, but he was never going to betray Viserys to.
Yeah,
or like
I don't think Viserys necessarily feared like death from Daemon or anything, but the council were the ones that like you can't really keep him around. I think Viserys was always more on the side of that's my brother.
Yeah, but I do think he was like he understood that Daemon had a lust for power. Like I don't think he was afraid for his life around him, but
Right.
I don't think he trusted him to be like a consistent, like steady support. He wouldn't have been, but there was an uncorruptible love there. I think because I think Daemon is a shitty person, but I don't think he would have ever done anything to hurt his brother or like have him have his dignity ripped away.
And also, is he only able to, have this tender moment with Viserys because, he's dying, but he's also, thrown his lot in with Rhaenyra to be what Viserys would not have him as, whether it was just a symptom of his personality or the times they lived in, which is to be Rhaenyra's champion in the field.
It's just a lovely scene, either way. And apparently, they keep saying that it was kind of a happy accident that they added after the fact, like it wasn't a part of the original script, which is crazy to think about because I feel like it puts a good finish on their relationship.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that it was that. That's
it could
crazy.
be total. It could be total bullshit, but they've said that when they were filming that the crown fell off on accident and Matt Smith picked it up, and they're like, "Ooh, that's kind of cool. Let's make it into something." And they added it to the scene afterward.
I mean, I think it's plausible considering how stooped over Viserys is.
Yeah. No, the music here was just perfect. Kind of give like a last hurrah type of feel to this. Do they have a point? I think they have a point in here where they, zoom in on Aemon. Aemon's looking at Daemon, and like you can just kind of feel like he's just like, yeah, I want to be you. I've heard so many things about you. I relate to you. As the the brother to the king type of thing, because I assume Aemon thinks that he's going to be the brother to the king.
They should have been best friends, in a different world, right?
Yeah, in a different world, they could have been best buds. Could have been covered in blood together, taking over the stepstones.
killing random people in the streets and claiming they're criminals.
It's the thing where the war is the most exciting, happiest thing that's going to ever happen to either of them. Maybe not show Daemon, but in the book, I definitely got the impression that they were both thrilled to have like this major conflict to test themselves in.
Right.
I'll say this for Daemon. You can think he's stupid, and he kind of is, in acting out after his claim was denied. But I think the also important point that this scene set up is that there's hundreds of Daemons outside of the realm, and whether you agree with their claims or not, they think they're right, and they will support Alicent. I mean, they'll support the Greens. They'll support Aegon as the king.
Yeah, I mean, if they're letting this all happen without Viserys at this point, like it seems like King's Landing is pretty resigned to letting the Greens do whatever they want, especially in Rhaenyra's absence. All right, so we have a quick scene here. Rhaenys overlooks the Silent Sisters working on Vaemon's dead body, and they, at one point, the headmaester asks if Rhaenys wants to leave, and she's like, no, I want to look. Death doesn't hide from me, or I think something along those lines. I thought that this was pretty powerful. I think that she's very resigned to the fact that like half of her family, or a lot of her family, is gone now.
Yeah, and I think that this is also just like showing like a cognizance on her part that like this is certainly not going to be the last body like this. She's decided in this throne room scene to throw her lot in with Rhaenyra because she claims for appearance's sake that she never wavered on supporting Corlys's decision, but we know she did. So it is a way of just, I guess, like to give her a quiet moment to just like reckon with the consequences of what she's like committing herself to.
Right. Yeah, and also just like really unsettling to see his separated head there on the table. For a moment, I actually thought that they were looking at people working more on Viserys' body, and then I realized like, oh no, the head's decapitated. It's definitely not him. All right, and then this leads up to the Viserys family Thanksgiving dinner, I guess we're calling it. There's a lot of tension here. It seems like Rhaenyra and Daemon and Alicent and Otto really don't want to be there. Viserys arrives and takes off his mask and makes his speech, which is kind of horrifying, but also very sad. He kind of just wants everybody to be happy, which, to his dismay, he seems like he can never have. And we do get some happy moments, although it seems like people, except for Rhaenyra and Alicent, are pretty much sticking to their corners. And eventually Viserys has to leave. He has another episode of pain. And then we kind of have some little jabs between the children, pointing out that they're strong boys, kind of ties the end on it, and Daemon stares down Aemond and gets the kids to leave. Rhaenyra decides that it's time to leave, but she'll return. She tells Alicent that they'll return on Dragonback.
Great scene.
Yes.
Like, period. And heartbreaking, because Viserys believed on his last night on Earth that he had done it, that he had fixed things, and everything was going to be okay.
Yeah, it seemed like he was just like very resigned. He was like, yes, it's happening. We're finally done here. Everything's fine. I can leave this world. We're good now.
Oh, it's so good and so hard to watch.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, all of these people, except for Alicent, Baela, and Rhaena, are going to be dead within 2 years.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think about.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, well, no, Aegon, the third.
Well, he's not at the
there.
table.
He's not there?
Adults only.
Oh, okay.
Well,
okay.
adults and teens.
Aegon Viserys. Yeah, so the moment where he takes the mask off and like summons his strength to try and like patch the family together, and I'm just like, man, God, I wish this would work. And for a second, it seems like, I mean, I think someone mentioned that Otto takes the moment where Alicent's like, "You'd be a great king, Rhaenyra." Like Otto's like, "Yeah, here." You're like, "What the hell?" It's like the Thanksgiving magic, like everybody is. It's happening. Like, holy crap, he's doing it. I'm like, but this is, what show am I watching? This is not right. Oh man.
These wonderful breakthrough moments are fleeting, very fitting for like the Song of Ice and Fire romanticism.
I think, to me, the most powerful moment of this episode, and the one that I think I like rung truest for me, is when Rhaenyra, like looking at her dad, who is putting on this really pained performance, she decides to swallow her pride and stand up and give Alicent her due. And Alicent's expression looking up at her is just like almost like this pained disbelief, and she accepts the apology. And that is some subtle face acting, but it's like, if you've ever had a rift form between somebody you loved and cared about, and then it seemed like it was never going to heal, and then maybe they said one thing and suddenly it's like, oh, maybe it can be the way it used to be. Maybe we can be the way we used to be. Like, I believe that. I believe that, like, she's one, like, in that moment, she's like, oh yeah, like, I still love you and care about you. Like, I remember that, and I want it to be that way again. And also, she's kind of given up on her fuckwit of a son, but like that, those two actors really sold it for me.
Yeah, and I like how, considering we know that like what's going to happen after this, it's just like, continuing an emotional motif throughout the season of just, characters just like holding on to these grievances for so long, and then like they finally get some sort of gesture of reconciliation, and them just deciding it's not enough for whatever reason. Like that catharsis that they saw is just, it's not coming from this. And, like for whatever reason, Alicent is going to decide that, not enough.
I think you made an important point earlier, Stephanie, and I saw you say this in the chat, that it ties into what Alicent says in the first or second episode when she's with Viserys, and she says, all I ever wanted was for someone to say, to tell me they were sorry. And Rhaenyra basically spells out, you took care of my dad, you did it well, and for that you have my gratitude and my apology. And it's like, those are the magic words. It's like, you see my pain and you recognize it, and I'm so desperate for us to come back together that she's willing to buy it in that moment. And she rubs her scar later when they're like holding hands. Alicent rubs the scar that she gave her. I'm sorry, it's really gay, and I'm really into it.
Yeah, and like when Alicent says that, she's not asking for anyone to fix whatever it is she's going through. She just wants her pain to be recognized. And she can't even get that for like most of her life.
Guys, this show is really good.
What makes it even better, because I have a completely different read in the scene. I think they're trying to placate their dead. They're about. They know that this might be the last time they see Viserys. They're trying to placate Viserys. I don't believe for a second. Maybe there's some sort of momentary emotional connection there, and that's great. I don't believe for a second this could have been any sort of training. Maybe this is some.
I don't believe.
Yeah.
I don't believe Otto is, and
no,
you know,
I
like
don't think
it could
Damon
be
either.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you know, like Nymeria put on the forum, you know, it's just like that is its own like kind of like tragic angle of just like, you know, like if they were on the verge of finally wanting to talk it out, but nope, they're just like still on like the plot, or they're still on just like they're in too deep. It's on like, you know, stuck on the conveyor belt of all these choices that they've made in the intervening years. And it's just like they see that with, you know, like once Viserys leaves and, you know, like they you know, like the servant puts that roast pig down in front of Aemond, and then like tiny Luke from across the table just like puts out a little giggle at that, and then it's just like, you know, like channeling his inner Theon. Aemond is like, you know what, I'm a grown man and I tower above him, but you know, I'm still going to, you know, like set, you know, like light this situation on fire. And yeah, it's just like, no, like what happened in the intervening years is real. It's not all water under the bridge, and it can't go back to the way it was.
My thought here is just that I think that both things are kind of right here. I think that, you know, there's even without the whole prophecy thing at the end of this episode, I think that no matter what happens, like the damage is done. Rhaenyra is going to do her thing, and Alicent is going to do her thing, and we're getting the Dance of Dragons. On the other hand, I think that, you know, this is like a family dinner, and, you know, I think that, like, you know, I think that this happens probably at a lot of family dinners where, like, we kind of put our differences aside for the sake of just wanting to be together with the people that we love or have loved in the past, and it's just a moment where we can kind of say that everything is okay, and we can kind of ignore the elephant in the room, if you will, about the succession. And you know, I think the children kind of like show that like it's not. This is not just like a resolution of the thing like Viserys thinks. This is. It's still brewing, because the kids do go after each other. You can see it with Aegon and his comments about Baela. Helena has a little quip in there about her husband and brother. And Aemond makes his speech after Luke has some little giggles about the pig in front of him. You know, so I think that it's both here. I think that there's like a moment where Rhaenyra and Alicent are like, maybe things can be fine because they have loved each other, and they would love for everything to go back to that first scene where Rhaenyra says that she just wants to go with her across the narrow sea and see all the wonders of the world and eat cake. And, you know, it's a very powerful scene, but it doesn't mean necessarily that Alicent and Rhaenyra are all good now, and like that's that. I think it's just really just an example of a moment in time.
I was just going to throw in earlier, right? The reason why I do think it's more sincere and not necessarily placating is that they do continue their conversation after Viserys leaves the room. Like, I don't think Rhaenyra is trying to placate her father when she says, "I'll come back." I think she's genuinely trying to, and maybe it started out that way where she wants to make her dad happy in his final days, but I do think that she's like she genuinely wants to try to mend the rift with Alicent and be what they were before.
So if this is the Last Supper, who's sitting in Judas's spot?
Damon's in every spot.
Oh man,
Damon and Aemond has like some sort of chair game going on with each other. Probably they want to jump.
No,
each
it's
other.
Otto. Otto is sitting in Judas's spot.
Was it Luke
Yeah.
who was dancing with Helena, or was it Jace?
It was
It was
Jace.
Jace.
it was Jace.
Yeah, it was very cute.
And Alicent is actually like kind of looking at that, seeing like, you know, there's like a look on her face that's just like, why was I so opposed to this in the first place? Too late, but you know.
Yeah.
What could have
Jace
been?
is such a
Delightful.
nice kid.
Yeah,
He's a sweet boy, you know, like he like, you know, like no matter like what the circumstances are of his birth, you know, he actually gives me like fake Aegon vibes with this. You know, he is, no matter like what the circumstances of his birth are, he is at least trying to rise to meet his responsibilities, which is, you know, more than his mother at that age. It's more than Aegon, certainly.
Yeah, Rhaenyra is proven once again to be a slouch and trying to get her son to like skip out on his studies the way she tried to get Alicent to skip out on school. she's a cool mom.
Cool mom.
Sweet.
Yes.
You can do drugs.
Oh.
I'd just rather you do it in the house.
Yeah, she's not that cool. Oh, just have all your friends come over to King's Landing. It's fine.
Have the
Such a
shade of the evening in the house.
Such a sweet
But not
and
but
strong
don't ride your
boy.
dragons at the same time. Be safe.
We got a maester here to make sure you don't take too much milk of the poppy.
So strong. Such a strong boy.
Oh my god. Before we move on, the one thing I did want to touch on is the little quote that Helena has. She has another little dream / prophecy. She says, monsters, I think it's the monsters under the floorboards.
The beasts beneath the boards.
Beasts beneath the boards.
Oh.
What do we think that means?
I think
Mr.
blood-
Korb suggested cheese.
Yeah.
it's gonna come up through the floorboards of the tower or something.
I
Or
think
who
we've
did
had.
she say that to?
She kind of said it out of context right before going into what her marriage is like, I think, right?
Right, like who is like because she was. It looks like she was like saying it to either Aegon or Jace. So like how does Jace die? Does maybe that could have something to do with that for a more like bonus points?
It might be maybe Loras? Like, if he's doing his rat things, rats are under the boards? I don't know. I do think, I mean, it's a very evocative image, and I think it has to be blood and cheese. Like, what else would it possibly be?
And I think that it's kind of been foreshadowed twice now, at least to book readers.
What was the other time?
The squealing children from the hunt.
Oh yeah, the screaming children sound like.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we have one more small scene that is just a little bit of a weird scene, and then we have the last scene.
Yeah, just when the fight breaks out, Rhaena just rushes over to keep Bela from like decking someone.
Ooh, I didn't see that. That's great.
Yeah, it's in the background.
Ooh, I like that. Go. I really like. I wish there was more time to get to know Bela and Rhaena. I feel like they're so interesting, but like they are not getting that much screen time, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is definitely the part of the season where I start fantasizing. Be like, what if we had 15 episodes instead?
Right.
Yes, Undead Viserys for another 3.
I mean, I would like it.
He just
had
starts
unlimited
gnawing
money.
on people in the background. Get him back to his room.
He currently has a hole in his chest, but we're just dealing with it.
We're not sure how he's still alive. I'm gonna be honest.
Honestly, like when you have a hole in your face, like how long do you live after that?
Ask Gaiman.
True.
I don't know. Some people like have. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Will
People are
Aegon be
resilient.
satisfied getting wrecked by Moondancer?
It'll be fun. None
Yeah,
of
it's gonna be
none of the series' injuries are from like trauma or impact. So like if he had had a battle wound, you'd be like, oh, he's a tough dude, but he's just been falling apart for years.
Iron Throne doesn't like him.
Yeah, tetanus.
Prophecy.
Yes. Before we get to that, though, we just have that one quick scene where it looks somebody in a cloak goes down the street to visit Missaria. And it ends up being the Alicent's handmaiden. Anything we make to this, I was a little bit confused by this. Other than maybe leading up to
something, I assume, next episode.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
leaking news of Viserys' death.
Yeah, that must be what it
Blacks.
is. They're trying to set up the Whisperers and like how the Blacks are gonna like start moving, because the lockdown of the Red Keep and everything, it's days before they announce. So,
And also, if they, wondering if she might be in like a casualty of blood and cheese, if the Blacks are just like kind of like inadvertently shooting themselves in the foot of like killing off a vital source of information.
Yeah, but I mean, we all thought this was Daemon at first, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Hoodie champ walking around.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the scene, I heard Katie in my head saying, like, Damon in his stealth hoodie.
He's heading to the brothels again.
It's chaos hoodie.
Yeah. What's he gonna do this time?
Also, they've kind of been like juggling like Clubfoot and Massaria, because like they had Massaria in the beginning, a few episodes, but then Clubfoot's taken more focus. So I think it's appropriate to remind the audience that she exists.
Did we see Larry's in this episode? Was he on the council?
Nope.
Yeah, he wasn't even in this episode, was he?
He has to rule Harrenhal now. But he's
No, I think he's like Littlefinger. He'd take the title, but never actually set foot there again.
Yeah, I do that. That is one of my favorite aspects of Littlefinger from the story. He's like, yes, Lord of Harrenhal, right? That shit's cursed. Not going near there. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I know better.
All right, and finally we have the last scene. Alicent is taking care of Viserys, and Viserys thinks that Rhaenyra is with him again instead, and he basically says that he thinks that the prophecy is true, that Aegon is the prince that was promised, and Alicent takes this to mean that he wants her son to be king. She leaves, and then Viserys dies. And up until this point, I was like really into the episode, and then I was just like, this is all I could focus on, and I was just like, no, not prophecy. You know, a part of me, like after thinking about it for a while, I think part of me thinks that this is a good way to show how like prophecy in general can be like a very powerful tool, but also can be like interpreted in so many different ways. That like, you know, you may think that someone is prophesizing something, but like it could be relevant to lots of different parts of time and people and places and everything. But otherwise, I'm just a little annoyed that the showrunners have decided to put this into play as part of the reason why, it seems to me, based off of the preview for next week at least, the reason why Alicent has the okay to put Aegon on the Iron Throne instead of Rhaenyra.
Oh, it's so stupid.
Okay, does someone want to defend this first?
I will defend this.
I feel like most people would be anti, so I would like to hear the pro position.
Defend the scene, or just defend like the motivation they're giving Alicent?
Anything.
Okay.
Can I defend this?
Yes.
Bing goes first, I'll go second.
Noted green stand Bing.
No, it's not so much green stand as in how this scene makes sense in a story like this. I mean, ignore the actual prophecy and what it actually means. It is, and think of it as the plot device, or as historically, this is something that's actually very common. Using the last will of the king or the last words of the king to basically establish someone who wasn't in line of succession into the line of succession. This has happened in history in terms of, for example, in history of England, in terms of Jane Grey becoming queen. This has happened plenty of times in the history of China, most infamously when the Emperor Kangxi died, and his fourth son essentially rewrote one of the characters in his will to make him the heir rather than another son. So the story goes. The point is basically this is not. I think a lot of people's immediate antithesis towards the fall prophecy is that, oh no, it links back to fucking Game of Thrones and all that and the dumb crap in season 8. But that's not what. I don't think this is what this is about at all. And I also don't think that it's going to be as simple as Alicent and all agreeing suddenly believing that, oh no, because the king said this, everything changes. No, this is a means of legitimizing legitimizing their factions' claims that Aegon should.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's bad.
I don't know why it's necessarily bad. They're going to need an excuse.
That's not what happens.
But
they don't need an excuse. They have power in the book. They don't need an excuse. They just do it.
They do need the excuse. This is legitimate. This is about legitimacy and it's about claims, and they need to have at least a pretense of legitimacy. It's how this works.
They could lie and say this. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, functionally, that's what this is. This is a lie. But they still need to have that pretense of legitimacy. This is just how the rules of this world works. This is how people like Vaemond Valerian is going to believe in their side, in that there's some sort of legitimacy. Because otherwise, otherwise they are usurpers. That's what I have to say.
I think that was well put, and I do find that note about the about using the king's last words to change the inheritor. That's fascinating. Bang, that's a good point. I guess from my point of view, I said this earlier. One, we don't know how it's going to be used in the next episode, and two, I think Alicent is going to see in this what she wants to see in it, and I don't think it's going to be the reason why Aegon gets put in the throne. I think it's going to be a means of either talking herself into doing it or persuading somebody else. I think it'll be a key part of the puzzle, but it won't be the only part of the puzzle, and I don't think that it's going to undo any of the rest of the work that they've done throughout the season with the characters. So yeah, I don't necessarily have much fear about it. I definitely in the moment it struck me kind of as like a lazy writing thing of like this misunderstanding leading to like an extreme deluge of consequence later. But after thinking about it, I was like, oh, yeah, I think I'm okay with this. Again, like we don't know. I feel like the show has been good enough so far with the writing that I'm trying to trust that it's not going to be like Alicent's not going to storm into the council and say, my husband had a dream. I don't think that's what's going to happen.
I mean, she doesn't need to. I mean, and that's the point. Is this was completely unnecessary. I get what Bing is saying. Like they have to have something to give them legitimacy, but they just make it up. That's what people do. Like this right here, like we don't know exactly how they're going to play it in next episode, but I know how they played it in this episode. She walks off, yes, my love, I understand. Aegon must be king. It's like, it's just so bad and so unnecessary.
I feel like I don't disagree with like what Bing and Katie are saying. I think what I want to say Matt said that before he got off the call was that if you don't have this scene and then next episode, first thing, Alicent tells everybody, you show Alicent telling everybody this, it has the same functional effect, right?
Well, but then you can think it's a lie.
It's a matter of right. It's a matter of revealing this to us and like showing us about like Alicent's motivations. I've been critical about how they've been showing her motivations at key points in this season before, and I guess I was like waiting for her to I would love for this to be like a moment of her actually like seizing her agency and saying fuck what Viserys wants. It doesn't matter what he wants. I could come out of this room and say whatever I want because you can manipulate people using the king's last words, but or just for the fact that they know that she was in the room but they don't know what was said, so she can make anything up. I think that just it just removes her agency and it removes it undercuts the emotional arc of it's just like all of this reconciliation. Something has to sour that, and for it to just be like Viserys rambling about what she wanted to begin with, I feel like that's a little off. I feel like
what's the other option is to like make some sort of conflict on the way out the door between the two parties.
Yeah, so
kids, which they did, but
okay, consider this. What if instead of rambling about prophecy, he was actually like Alicent? If Alicent is still in the room for his last words, he is saying, "I'm sorry, Emma." The big deathbed confession / apology. We're coming off Rhaenyra apologizing to Alicent, and no matter how it started, for maybe it started for appearance's sake, but they seemed to get to a point where they were willing to make a good faith effort at least bringing the tensions down to bring it back to the emotional core of this deathbed. This is the deathbed apology confession, and it's not to me.
I think the thing is that Alicent doesn't even get this as a prophecy. It's like, I don't care about the prophecy. It's stupid to bring it up, but it doesn't and I don't care if they're trying to use this as, like I said, they can just make this up. I care about the fact that how it changes the character's portrayal of what they've given us of Alicent. And they've done this a couple times where I felt like this just kind of takes away from her, in my opinion. Why couldn't you have him dying saying that he, trying to talk to Rhaenyra, or Rhaenyra knows, and actually talking about the prophecy and then her being like, wait, Rhaenyra knew this shit, and then being jealous and being upset, and like getting like angry and bitter, and like that could have been motivation, like moment
to
of
actually make
reconnection.
progress. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would feel resonant and consistent to me, at least.
I feel I would be opposite of consistent. I feel like this is actually the most consistent way to portray it. Because Alicent, and I would argue, even people like Otto, they could have taken power by this point. Viserys is an undead corpse, essentially. They could have already taken power. Why haven't they? Because they, at the deepest core, they care about these. Alicent, what has always been consistent about her character, she sticks to the system. She's somebody who was born into the system, and she sticks to all these rules. And she believes, and the reason why she hates Rhaenyra at this point so much is that Rhaenyra can feel like she can flaunt all these rules and doesn't care and just go off and murder her husband and marry her uncle and previously have street bastards and pretend they're legitimate. That's the core. And the thing is, if she acted into to just take power and say, screw Viserys, screw you. Okay, great. Maybe that's a more compelling character, but it's also not consistent with who she has been up to this point. Having the legitimacy is important. Having that legitimacy, that claim is important. However BS you may think it is, that legitimacy gives them the power to then act. Because
but
even
they
Otto,
have the other symbols of legitimacy.
they don't.
Do it when they're setting up the green coup, they have like that's what they're going through the coup to establish. And they don't need anything else. They just have the rule of a son comes before the daughter, and like you said, Bing, that's enough for enough lords to give them a critical mass.
Yeah.
Yes, but problem is they need the push. I feel like they need the push.
I don't think they do it before Viserys dies because they wouldn't get as many people choosing sides if the king is still alive, right? You can't do it before he dies.
Because even during the Green Coup, they read his will, and they still his will is read before the small council, and they have I guess
oh, right.
I'm a little fuzzy on this, but they say
this gets
but they just laugh that off because they know they're doing what they want at that point.
It's just a small council, though. That's not before the court.
This gives them more the impetus to act because historically has been, I mean, again, going according to the rules of those worlds, this has been a form of legitimization. And whether you, from a modern perspective, appreciate that or not, historically, that has been something that wields significant power.
But that's not the Greens from the books, though. I mean, they didn't need that. They're I don't know. It's just I feel like that makes the Greens even more compelling. That they feel like we are the ones that they have a lot more legitimacy and justice to their side. Then
I think the thing that bothers me here is not really the Alicent legitimizing her thoughts or even the prophecy being used in the show. I feel like I've come to terms with that, and this has to be a prequel, blah blah blah. I think the part that I just don't like is that misinterpretation or misunderstanding something being a plot device to kind of make this roll into the Civil War. And I know it's not the only reason that we're getting a Civil War, but I feel like it being the big thing is what's bothering me here. Because it's with every kind of thing it's kind of like a rom-com, oh no, the two main characters heard something from somebody else about the other that makes them look bad when it actually was the person saw another person that wasn't that person doing the thing. So that's what kind of is bothering me, not really. And
I almost think that her getting the prophecy, actually getting the prophecy, and going, oh shit, we have a duty to the oh my gosh, my Aegon, and something's gonna happen. I feel like that's just as compelling and less of a shitty mechanism.
I mean, again, I personally think that we haven't seen how they're going to take this in the next episode. I'll reserve judgment. I could be wrong. Maybe they will take it in a very weird.
I mean, you don't think her leaving, being I got it. Yes, Viserys, I get it. You don't think that's enough?
No,
I don't know.
not really.
We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see.
Not really. I mean,
I've been wrong before.
and the people surrounding her, how are they going to react to this? That's even more important, right?
Well, we know Otto is down. Like he's like
It's not so
he's got the like Avengers protocols ready to go. So
and again, to me, this is a case of this is not just a misunderstanding. This is they're essentially they're remaking the series as well in order to justify their claims to themselves. Again, something that has happened many times in history, and it does have, and it happens in history because the countless pretenders and throughout in the history of many feudal societies / monarchies. Why do they need to do that? They all have power to not act to just, sure, I have power, I'll just claim it. It's not exactly how power works.
Yeah, I think I see your point here, and I think that there is like an element of like misunderstanding what people have said in history to kind of like make their own actions make sense. That's definitely a thing. I think that I personally don't love that as like a plot thing, but I think that you're definitely onto something with like misinterpretation of like the will or whatever. I think that makes a lot of sense, and it kind of actually even makes me able to process this episode a lot easier.
Sure, people want to be seen as doing the right thing. Either they want to see themselves as doing the right thing, or they want to be seen by others as doing the right thing. I just feel like, at least in the book, the Greens feel like they have enough justification just on, like, what's Krispy Kreme's famous line, just like the law is clear, a son comes before a daughter. And then, they make sure to have the hasty coronation to, like, cement that, right?
Maybe the showrunners want to go for a more sympathetic portrayal.
Yeah, how long is it until they do the coronation? Like in the book, what's the time frame? I'm trying to remember.
I think
4 or 5 days.
It's not super late. It's less than a week. Yeah.
I think it is
like,
7 days.
They don't wait for the High Septon to come out. Like, they just have, what's his name? The Septon. No, well, they have the Kristen Cole puts the crown on, but they have, like, the Castle Septon.
Yeah. Also,
they
hide Viserys' dead body. They hide Viserys' dead body.
Right.
Yeah, for a while.
It's going to be weekend at weekend at the Red Keep next week.
Yeah.
Do you guys think next week is going to be a King's Landing only episode? Because I didn't see Daemon or Rhaenyra anywhere in the previews. It looks like it might just
That'd be a bold move.
A green only episode.
That's what I've wondered, and I kind of expect it and would like
if they do that. Yes.
Maybe the episode ends with Alicent's maid delivering a letter to Miss Arya to get the news out. But I would think a King's Landing only episode would be bold. I would appreciate that.
I think it would be a great take for the series to do. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 might be greens only, and 10 might be blacks only.
Blacks only,
up until the end. Because I do
like Lucerys, you'll go to Storm's End. Jace, you'll go to the north, and like just have all of that set up in that episode 10.
I think it has to end on Luke getting killed at this point.
Ooh, you think
the
so?
season?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the closer for the season, is them getting the news of... Well, because in the book, it's the peace talks go on for a while, and then after Luke dies, it's like all bets are off. And I don't know, I feel like there's a production still out there with... And it might have... I don't even know what... It could be from this episode, I'm not sure, but it just seemed like there was an episode, like a production still that was like Aemond at Storm's End, and Luke was there, or a brown-headed child was there. I don't know. I feel like there has to be.
Oh, maybe.
Like the finisher for the season is like, we don't have any battles coming up. I feel like they want like a definitive showpiece.
To set the tone and get people coming back.
Yeah, because there's no coming back after that. Like the war has started. You can't.
Right.
There's no peace talks after that.
For sure that would be a season 2 thing, like episode 1 or 2. And the last couple episodes, I've kind of wondered the same thing. Like maybe that gets moved up.
A part of me thinks they want to save that for episode 1 of season 2, because I mean that's the way to open a season. You have them arriving at Storm's End and the kind of intrigue there.
You have to dedicate a good bit of time to that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a 20-minute block.
At least.
I feel like the only reason why I feel like it might still be season 2, because I think it would make sense for them to end the season that way. But the only reason why I feel like it really is going to be in season 2 is because, like, casting and like I think there's stuff involved around like Storm's End and all that they don't want to have to practically pull actors into and stuff yet.
They did introduce.
Maybe they did.
We were at Storm's End, I think, for a reason earlier in the season, which is to introduce that
Right.
set, and so
They have
that
the sets, yeah.
the audience will kind of like they'll be whoever's in.
Oh God,
Storm's End,
it'll be a mirroring of
And
that
introduce
kid.
violence under Lord Baratheon's roof that Rhaenyra is connected to.
I can see it starting with the Boros on the throne on the in that chair and basically him being the little Blackwood kid walking up.
If the Blackwood kid comes back.
I think
who's the one that goads Aemon? Is it the daughter?
One of the daughters.
Maris, I think her name is. I think one thing we're underestimating is we can't say that's too much. That's too much, but like consistently, I've said the same thing. Like, oh, they can't do that. Like, that's way too much. But then when you actually break it down on screen, it's like, oh, that's like a 5-minute scene. Not like the Storm's End specifically, but material that I think takes like up a lot of time and space in my head on screen actually does not take that much time. Given
they
at
have,
the pace
they
that
have a
they've been
breakneck
doing.
Pace.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. They definitely could actually. And now, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get out of the finale.
Boros Baratheon is cast.
Yeah, because that's who we saw.
No, we saw Borman,
earlier, right?
his dad. No, we saw
We
Boros.
saw.
Oh,
Has he been cast?
Boros Baratheon is cast.
interesting.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
then there's a
Season
good chance then.
Yeah, because he's the problem in that it was Borman that made the oath to Rhaenyra, and then when Luke when he goes there, Boris is like,
He's like, well, I didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my dad.
Yeah, and he doesn't go to King's Landing. He stays at Storm's End.
Yeah.
So,
It'll be fun.
I just want to see the dragon, and if we only get to see Luke's dragon, like for him to fly and die, that would kind of suck.
Yeah, it makes me very curious how they'll choreograph it, because I don't know. Like we have that really cool picture in the World Book of Vhagar biting Eric's head off.
Yeah.
I was looking at that earlier today. That is some really good art.
Hopefully, it doesn't take place at night. Sorry.
You're good. If we're coming, that's a good point. If we're coming to the next episode talk, what was it? The scene with Sir Eric going after Aegon, it seems, or trying to find Aegon at his revels. We'll get to see some stuff there, I think. And we get more time with the Cargiltons, at least one of them. Also, we'll be probably saying goodbye to poor Harold Westerling next week. I will be broken.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
Is he gonna get killed by Kristen Cole?
I mean, in the trailer for the next episode, there's a very obvious scene where Lyman Beesbury is dead on the table, and Kristen and Harold have swords at each other.
Pour one out for a real one.
Yeah, a real one. Lyman Beesbury.
I feel like they never really used the Westerling at all in the show. They cast like a pretty that
awesome actor. Yeah,
the actor was in Witcher. He's pretty good, but he didn't really.
I was looking for more from him.
I know he was pivotal in telling Kristen he had the watch.
I guess. Great.
Well, it'll be Kristen's elevation afterwards. So.
Yep.
And a reason for the other Sir Eric to get the fuck out.
What'd you say, Stephanie?
That'll teach Westerling to get negative performance.
All right. Before we close out, Ben, do you want to give your introduction and your rating? Since you joined a little late.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I'll give this one another 4 out of 5. The big scene with Viserys was beautiful, almost brought a tear to my eye, and reports from my friends were they were crying during it. It was great episode in my opinion. The couple of things that annoyed me were just the return of dagger talk. Hate dagger talk. Whenever it comes up, I roll my eyes pretty heavily. I prefer if it was just any other dagger, even if it wasn't that dagger. It's a random Valyrian steel dagger that House Targaryen holds, not the one from Game of Thrones. But can't do anything about it, I guess. Other things I liked, the scene at dinner was great. poor Viserys, and the like him like taking in his family, like being decent to each other for like 10 minutes maybe, and how it seems to be like him feeling at peace with everything afterwards, and I love that. And his death, which made me sad, even though I didn't like the implications of the scene with Alicent during it. But yeah, overall, good episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm excited for next week.
Awesome. I think we're at the end of the episode here. Is there anything that you guys that we missed that you want to discuss before closing out?
I'm so pleased that Rhaenyra and Daemon are a disgustingly cute couple. Like all day I was like thinking in my head, I was like, oh, mom and dad.
Rhaenyra mom.
Do you have a ship name for them?
On Tumblr, it's Demira, which I don't like.
Demira is very popular right now.
Can I suggest something?
What?
Yes.
What?
Nunkle's Delight.
Oh, that sounds like a Victorian Asha. What do you call it? Ship name, and it's awful.
You know what's really funny is like on Tumblr, obviously there's like people who kind of skew towards like a very purity culture approach to fiction, but they're really into Daemon and Rhaenyra, so they're having to rationalize it to themselves.
It's a lot of coping. Yep.
Oh, yeah, it's like, it's not real incest, it's Targaryen incest. It's totally different.
Yeah. And then you have to struggle with him like murdering his past wife, you know? Like, he's
they
a
try
piece
to
of shit. I know those people very well because I kind of hate them.
The horse just went on its own. Daemon did not use magic at all.
Yeah.
Like, guys, it's okay. Just say it. They're hot. It's fine. It's fine.
You can enjoy something and it be bad. It's okay. I promise you won't literally melt like the Wicked Witch of the West.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for talking with me on this episode. You can find Vassals of Kingsgrave on the Discord if you want to talk about your own opinion about the show. We love having lots of different opinions on here. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Dracarys legitimately pretty good.
Dracarys!
What is dead may never die.
Thank you for hosting, Casey.
Yeah, thank you, Casey.
Give me 1 second. These notes took me a little bit longer than I wanted it to take, and then I couldn't find my headphones, but we have that now. I just need the episode name.
Lord of the Tides, or The Lord of the Tides, or something like that.
It's
this
the
was
Lord
like
of the Tides.
Yeah, this was the Odd
Tides.
Duck episode, I feel like.
It's so weird, though, because there were so many people online who were saying, like, this is the pivotal episode. I'm like, usually it's episode 9. What are you guys talking about?
Right. It is kind of
Game of
pivotal in some
Thrones.
ways.
Robert's death was episode 8, right?
Yes. No,
Yeah, but
7?
Ned's death was episode 9 or 10, right?
Yeah, no, that was episode 9, but like,
Yeah.
you know, like this.
Yeah,
is,
the boar
like,
is episode 8, and I don't remember if he passes in episode 8 or episode 9.
Robert
Dies off
has to be
screen.
8. Yeah, he dies off screen. That's a problem. His final scene was the Ned
So
conversation.
it could be either one then.
What did you mean that it's the Odd Duck episode?
I just mean like the episode title's a little weird, and like we kind of like settle this stuff up, and then we're like, okay, Green Council, you know, we're like, oh no, we have to have one more episode. Like it was just kind of weird, like in like the episode naming and stuff. I feel like because as much as this is about like who's going to be the next Lord of House Valerian, it kind of isn't.
And then after Viserys' big scene in the throne room, Rhaenys while the Silent Sisters are addressing Vibon's body.
Yeah.
They're not
Okay.
clear what that scene's about.
Well, I think it's more about like showing that, or just like like Rhaenys contemplating all the like
Death.
that's happened and death to come, and just like how she's like not like going into this delusional, really, like she's aware that like there's going to be casualties to whichever side she ended up choosing.
Yeah, she makes a bold choice here, the way they frame it. I like that.
Unlike every other character in the show, she doesn't run her goddamn mouth about what she's thinking.
Yes.
Right, and then just like like she is the one that like like she is part of the reason why Vymon's body is on that table, right? So because Viserys calls to her in the throne room. I thought that was nice. A nice way of like giving her like a voice in this when she's been passed over for everything.
Yeah, I think it was well executed. Executed.
Did you guys see the behind the scenes with Vymon's actor?
Yes.
Look, he gets this one episode. He gets this one episode.
He was like, dude, come on, man. He got me from behind, bro. You wouldn't have got me if I had turned around. Like,
he wanted everyone to know that Vymon is right. We should respect him.
He is right.
He's right.
He's right and he's wrong. But it's like Otto. Like, eventually you'll all see how right Otto Hightower is.
Right. It's like he's right, but actually, like real life common law is on Rhaenyra's side. So.
Well, but I mean, he as the uncle, like he wouldn't even be next anyway. The daughters would be next. Like, so but he was basically being like, look, you've broken the rules twice with you and with your daughter, so let me have my go.
I have stuff to say about that, but we'll leave it to
because when it didn't work out, he should have just shut his mouth.
There's actually a theory that like she that's not moon tea.
Oh, you think it's poison?
Jesus.
I personally don't subscribe to this, but
I feel like if Allison wants to kill that girl, she doesn't need to just like go deceptively poison her. She is
she wouldn't do that. She would sterilize her
over here with that.
Well, no, she can just execute.
I don't think she'd want to like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she'd want to like forcibly hold the girl's nose until she like opens her mouth to poison her that way. But
that's what Cersei would do.
Yeah, well, or throw her down a well or something.
Haha.
But I think like what gave me pause personally is how Alicent is very hung up on the fact that like like that girl said, I only told 3 people, including you, Your Grace. But I'm generally on Camp Moon Tea, but just letting you know it's out there.
Yeah, I thought it was the only like thing that gave me a little bit pause in that scene was that they were showing the color of the moon tea for some reason. I was kind of like, we didn't really see the color of the moon tea before. Like, why are we seeing it now? Like, that's kind of weird, but I don't know.
I think it owes more to her.
There's actually yet another theory that Sir Crispy is actually Jace's real father.
Oh, I saw that and I was like, guys, no.
Gotta make sure she drinks it.
Ugh. There's no way.
That would be a bad twist.
That's too much tinfoil for me.
Yeah.
But thank you for putting that fear in my head, Stephanie, that they're going to have a scene later on where she's like, I didn't drink it. He's yours, Chris. Sorry,
Right.
Casey.
No,
Go ahead.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Not for now.
It's because Jace has really straight hair, like Kristen.
Oh my
Has really curly hair, like Harwin.
Oh my god.
God
And
damn
that's
it.
been kept consistent between the actors.
They're too young.
Sick.
They're way too young for them to be at any point. I'm pretty sure Rhaenyra did not want to go Christian Cole down that road again, like after the fact. But
No, I don't believe it.
but
it's funny.
It's funny that I'm seeing it on Twitter a lot too. Like I just don't get it.
Oh, Twitter is like somehow proving to be more of a cesspool in this hour of House of the Dragon. It's very interesting.
Honestly, I have a theory on that. It's that like people moved off Tumblr to Twitter.
Oh, that's
actually-
proven fact. Yeah.
I
Twitter
actually
is
think
also
that
game.
people. I think Twitter is the same, but I think that TikTok has enhanced the meme / crazy speculation that people have, because people can just do quick bits instead of like doing like what we do, which is basically like 2 hours of podcasting on it.
Or like a 3-part series of essays, or, you know, multiple videos of like what they want to put out into the world.
Like people just do like little quick bits on like, hey, did you notice this thing? This is why this thing is important. It's been, and you know, like it's all on my, at least it's all on my feed. It's like that, and like thing that keeps on popping.
You know what I'm gonna do? I think I should talk to Preston and see if I can get him to get on TikTok.
I mean, like
that is where the content has gone, is these little like bite-sized pieces, and I hate it. But we do have a VOK TikTok.
Oh,
I think I follow you.
TikTok, I believe.
Yep, there was like three videos.
maybe we could start doing that. Like, bro, okay, did you see this scene? Follow to find out more.
Import our dozens of YouTube followers.
Just put our little clips in there. Yeah. No, I mean, my whole feed has been like random theories. It's been like book readers being like, ugh, I hate this. And then there's like the general like, you know, like, have you noticed this thing? And then there's like literally on repeat, Emma Darcy's drink of choice being a Negroni Spagliato with Prosecco. And I'm just like, I know I'm going to hate that, but like they make me want to try it. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say one thing. Patty should get an Emmy for sure. Like he's just
100%.
So much good work has been done here. Man has stolen this entire show for himself.
Apparently, even George congratulated him. Was like, "Oh yeah, Viserys, shit, he's a good character. Didn't know that."
That was a good George impression.
Maybe I just curate my experience better, but I feel like the show has been very warmly received on Twitter. Like, for whatever worth Twitter is a barometer, but I've been enjoying the memes, you know?
There's been good memes,
yes. A lot of memes. Yeah. In general, hasn't the show been kind of viewed positively, I would say? At least, except for by people that aren't watching, who are like, oh, I ain't watching that.
Yeah, it's weird.
Shit.
Heard some criticism, and I'm just like, there's things that I agree with. I mean, you guys hear me when I get mad about the show and Dagger Talk specifically. But you know, I think most of the reception has been nice and happy with this show.
I think that like up until last episode with like the lighting issues, I've generally seen positive on my social media feeds. There's just this one girl that keeps on popping up on my TikTok that like is like, this is the worst thing to have ever happened, and this is why. Like, Allison shouldn't be acting like this. Why did they age them down? Why did they make them have a relationship? And I'm just like, because it's good.
Yeah, I keep thinking about what you said last episode, Adam, where you're like, maybe we just got that out of our system with Game of Thrones. I'm like, I guess that's true.
Yeah, we limbered up and we're ready to go now.
Yeah. I'm just not in a place in my life where I'm interested with nitpicking about anything except the size. Like the number of eggs in a dragon clutch. That's the only thing that's like set fire under my ass.
Fun little things. Yeah. If I'm going to have a show that I watch every week live and I want to talk with you guys about it, like it's going to be something that I am enjoying. I'm not going to be like our kind of discussion about the whole, you know, what the prophecy does, whatever. In a couple episodes, it will not matter. Except for like, you know, next season when Greenstands are like, well, you know, at the deathbed of Viserys, and you gotta be like, you know,
and that's exactly why they put it in. So
that's exactly why they did it.
Green fans can rise up and.
But I gotta say, they need that for the show. We've already admitted this. They need it for the show. They need people that are like, Allison's right, man. She got the biggest dragons, and they need people that are like, well, Rhaenyra is it. Like
discourse.
They have to have it.
It creates.
I think they've been successful.
There's one hardcore Allison stan I follow on Twitter who is just like, will we never know rest? Will people just like stop sending us harassment?
Just like clutching pearls the whole time.
I hope that person start quoting from like 7.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, oh my gosh, the Smith would have been so upset with your comment.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Bing is in denial. It's just a phase. He'll grow out of it. Like Corliss said.
I mentioned this in the chat. I support the claim of the true heir, Tristan True Fire. The True Fire. He even has the name True in it. The word True in his name.
Case closed.
Damon the Glorious. Why isn't he getting in here? Why doesn't he podcast with us?
Because he's very busy and he is very into the third Gillian the Ninth book. I think that is what he's reading right now.
Oh, is he reading that one? That's on my list.
Yeah.
I'm 2 in.
They asked why you don't come on the. They asked that why you don't go on the podcast. I am tired and I don't have space in my soul right now.
If we don't get him and Varley
okay,
on
Greg,
before the end of the season, I will consider it a failure.
No.
This whole endeavor will be a failure. Tell him that.
Tell him we miss him.
They miss you.
I need to know how many chains he has on the books at the bookstore. This is important.
Oh my god. He's like also listening to something right now, so.
Yes,
he? I'm talking to you.
How dare
you want to say
he?
hi? Okay. All right. Yes. You know, Adam, I'm sure you're aware that the Mets lost yesterday, so I think he's in a little bit of a...
Oh, right.
Yeah.
My as much as I'm dancing right now, my condolences. Yeah. I was avoiding that because of Mihal too. So yeah, she's not here. Casey, is Greg in the room with you right now?
Yeah, so like is it?
Are we sure?
No.
Tell him at least the Mets lost in an epic one-hitter that was like a record. So you know.
I'm not going to tell him that.
Never happened before to any other team but the Mets.
The Mets, baby.
Of laughing at every other baseball team.
I like the Mets. I hate the Yankees, so I actually like the Mets. I was sad to have to win.
I hate every single one of these baseball teams equally, including my own. I probably hate my own world. Colorado Rockies.
Oh right, I forgot.
It's okay. I like to forget about them.
Oh man.
Yeah, and we also have Greg's not going to watch the rest of the Rings of Power because of how much it's deferred from the book. So I think we're sad about that
rough.
too.
Isn't the point of that show too, like it's like got like footnotes of the books? That's the only thing they could adapt.
Yeah. But then why do it?
I don't know.
Because billions of dollars. Yeah. So this is like completely off topic, obviously, but the article came out this week because at one point Amazon or Netflix was maybe going to make Lord of the Rings content, and I guess they had pushed like completely remaking the movies and like retelling the actual story. And like Christopher Tolkien and the Tolkien estate were like, "Oh no, fuck off with that." And then they were like, "Let's just let Amazon do whatever they like."
Isn't Christopher dead now?
Oh, I don't know.
I think Christopher's dead. It's the estate running. I mean, like the later on.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I thought. Well, wasn't he against the movies in the first place? I don't know.
Christopher?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think his dad was okay with it.
Wait, did J.R. Tolkien knows what movies are?
Well, I mean, wait, did J.R. Tolkien die before the Rankin and Bass cartoon ones?
Is the show bad?
I mean,
that's a great question.
Coming from me, who's watched like the first 3 movies, I watched like part of the Hobbit movies, and it made me like laugh the whole time. So I haven't gone back to it. I feel like I'm already kind of like, and the reason I like laughed the whole time was because they had a talking dragon, and it was just like
that's the reason.
Yeah, it took me out of the whole thing. I was just like, why is it talking?
That's the whole point. Oh my gosh.
Well, I haven't read any of the books, but anyways,
they didn't even put in the silly elf songs.
All right, it's just like I think it's so I'm not a fan of any of the books. So like coming from like that kind of perspective, like I think that it's a little boring and it's a little silly. But like some of the parts, like the music's great, the cinematography is great, the story is interesting enough for me to continue to watch. And I don't have any connection to the book, so I'm not mad about anything.
I just like the major story makes no sense.
I'm just like not like a big fan of, or I guess I'm just not as into it as I have been with Thrones. I don't know if that makes sense.
Greg canonically hates the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. because it's
Canonically he does.
well, it's his favorite. It's his favorite book. Like the Silmarillion was his favorite book, and like because they're doing what they're doing with it, and they didn't get the rights to the book, like they're doing this, and it feels like it's ruining his thing.
Yeah,
That's a bummer.
Yeah,
kind of playing with it. Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of looked away from the very beginning and never bothered with it. Didn't look very interesting.
Avert your eyes, my child.
I didn't have much hope. Only a fool's hope.
Casey, I was impressed how you said, I didn't read the book, so I have nothing to be angry about. I feel like that's more advice that we could live by more often here.
Don't read. This is going to be okay. PSA. Not reading
Hey,
it improves your life.
I mean, like that's coming from. I guess that's progress for me because after season 8 ended, I was still in therapy at that point, and so I was talking to my therapist about this and how much I was like angry about the whole thing, and then he was just like, well,
it doesn't matter.
He was like, why don't you write the end of the series? And he was dead fucking serious, and I was just like, are you serious right now? Like, how dare you?
Are you endorsing fan fiction?
Jeremy's rolling in his bathtub right now. How dare you? I read so much fanfiction.
So do I.
Fan fiction.
Where do people read fan fiction these days?
AO3.
Don't use AO3. Don't.
Sorry.
Okay? You go to the Space Battles forums. You go to the alternate history forums. You go to any other thing that isn't AO3. Tagging system's horrible. People there don't know how to write. Full of children.
What is this
You don't have
to
an
me?
opinion, Jucio.
Isn't it?
I don't go to LiveJournal if that's your opinion.
LiveJournal?
Don't go to LiveJournal. No one uses LiveJournal. No.
Is
Go
it
to Space Battles.
fanfiction.com or something?
Question
Or like,
mark?
I don't know.
Go to the
There is-
alternate history forums or the Space Battles forums.
Isn't our history forum just filled with people with weird fetish with the Confederate States of America or
No, that's not the type of stuff that gets
Okay.
there.
Aren't
I mean,
all
you can
forums now
check
just full of spam trying to
you
get me
can-
to buy something?
You can check their what do you call it? Their politics section, and they're generally pretty skewed to the left.
That's not my only familiarity with it.
Oh, fair. But like, there's tons of stuff that has nothing to do with either the Confederate States of America or the Nazis winning.
Wait, is
Right,
everything?
right. But what about the stuff that does?
I mean, generally, there's a lot of people on there that are published alternate history authors, like
Okay.
in the style of Harry Turtledove published.
And then they
You
write
know.
fan fiction on there too?
Yeah, they wrote either
Yeah.
fan fiction or fiction, which is
Huh.
Yeah.
Or they just
But
write it
it's-
on the forum?
There's a section dedicated to, because for a long time there was a section called ASB, Alien Space Bats. It's just to say things that are impossible. Okay, like technically there's things that would have been possible if someone changed their mind and decided on something else, right? And then there's stuff that's impossible, and that's where ASB was.
So like fantasy type stuff, like
Yeah, well, like
fantastical stuff.
Ludicrous, right? Like
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like.
So something like there's a famous novel like Island in a Sea of Time, and now it's a trope where it's like a specific place in like Maine gets sent back like 300 or 400 years, and thus that's the story of how it ends up affecting the world, right? So in that's like a genre in that same category, because ASB it's impossible basically, but in that category for a long time, all the stuff that was also like fandom related got thrown in there. And then they were like, this stuff has taken over this part of the fandom, so we're just going to split it. So there's now a fandom part, and then there's an ASB part. And so you can
Sounds
use
like it's
either
hard
or.
to find stuff.
It's not really. They
Like,
labeled it on the front of
If
their
I'm trying to
little
find like a
thread.
pairing of, perhaps Damon and Amond, where would I find that?
AO3, definitely.
AO3. If you're looking for specifically pairings to like
Not in a sexual
find-
way, just in a bros way.
No, in a
Bros,
bros way.
bros.
Yeah, whatever.
Bros.
Anyway,
Oh my
you're
god.
probably gonna find it there.
He wants
yeah.
the alternate universe camping trip.
That's right.
Yeah, if you want your coffee shop AUs, that's where
I
you
want them
find
like murdering people in Bravos or something. I don't know.
Yeah. If you want them going to college and facing the challenges there, but somehow all being named after Targaryens, that's where you go.
Is fanfiction.net still alive? As a
Yeah, it is.
website?
Still
It
there.
is. It's still
Okay.
alive. It's just less used these days.
Is it as alive as our
The-
forum?
Like most
It's more
internet
alive than that.
It tends to skew younger, I think, or maybe that's just like my history with it.
That's
Because
Young
AO3.
people don't do forums.
All
Like,
the young
but
people have moved to AO3.
They have to have forums for this sort of stuff. This is long form. It can't all be, goldfish attention span TikTok shit.
I mean, Megamat09 would disagree. This man has written 60
I don't want
million.
fan fiction. I want the TikTok person to read me the fan fiction. That's what I want.
There are people who do audio like pods of their fanfic. Like that
This
shit
is
out
true.
there.
My wife sends me. There's this lady that reads like bad like erotica novels and stuff, and they're so like because it's like I'm not even gonna say this stuff because it's so bad, but it's like just like not understanding anatomy and just like who is writing this.
That's
like,
very normal. Not understanding anatomy.
Just, like,
Adam,
they kind of don't understand anatomy. Like they they actively misunderstand it like so badly.
I know. It's very.
It's like, yes, we can use the ear hole. Whoa. What?
I think I got this from Katie, but do you guys watch the Written by a Man or look at the Written by a Man Twitter?
No.
One.
Was that in my MFA? That was the one I used to follow.
Yeah, something like that.
Honestly, my sister tried reading the Song of Ice and Fire novels. She got to a Daenerys chapter. She like it's like she like read the line that Martin wrote about like 13-year-old Daenerys, like her tiny breasts flapping under her vest, and she's like, no.
I guess it's kind of good for me that like I was watching the first few episodes of the show, then I started reading the book. Because like when they were talking about like 13-year-old Daenerys, I'm like, Emilia Clarke, who's like 20 something. Yeah. So my mental image was already sort of locked in there, and I was like, yeah, that doesn't seem right. But
what's fascinating about fanfic is like a lot of it's written by obviously younger people or people who are sexually inexperienced. And because of that, they rely on fanfiction to teach them how to write about sex. And so the way sex gets written broadly in fanfic follows patterns. Like anatomy gets these euphemisms attached to it that like come and go. Like I swear to God, like tight ring of muscle was what the asshole was called for like 5 solid years on it.
Yep.
Rusty wagon wheel.
Yep.
Oh man.
This is a very real thing. It's very, very annoying to a degree. Like
he grabbed her baby sucklers and they felt like sand.
No,
like sand.
Yeah, in Dragon Age, like no one ever wanted to say clitoris, so they called it pearl for some reason, and I was like, "This is written by a 13-year-old."
Yeah, man, why do you remind me of that?
You found the pearl. Don't throw your
I don't know if you guys heard about
line.
it, but like for a brief time, AO3 actually got past the Great Firewall until it became the source of like a really like big internet controversy in mainland China.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, then the reason I found out about it was because NPR picked it up, which is by that point they were.
Fiction?
It was like a gay fanfic, or it was a slash fic. That was at the center of this.
Oh, you know your fan fiction because you said slash.
Well, yeah, and then it was like a beauty salon alternate universe slash fic. So
I remember being able to open certain when I was in Beijing in 2013, 14, and knowing that they're all now not open. The censors used to be very dumb in the mainland. Unfortunately,
I mean, by the time I heard about it, it was on an NPR story, so it's like, okay, well, like they've closed that down. By the time I heard about it, so
yeah, it used to be they only know how to block like Google and Wikipedia, like all those big ones. Now, unfortunately, they know a bit more.
Huh?
Ugh.
Yeah.
China.
Yeah. The funny thing about fan fiction is that like the best thing you can do is generally try to find sites that skew older and have more niche interests, and otherwise it's very much like panning for gold essentially when looking for good writing, and thus I get very frustrated with AO3. So that's just what you have to do otherwise.
Well, I think I know what I'll be doing tonight.